Imagine this, a restless mind, trapped in an unending cycle of secret indulgence. You awaken, burdened by a strange emptiness, longing for relief you cannot name. Where does this thirst lead you? And what if the remedy you cling to is precisely a silent poison, unraveling your will? This is no mere habit, it's a breach in the fortress of self. Brace yourself, we are about to unveil a dilemma deeper than fleshly impulse, one that threatens the very core of your resolve. The hook and the great question arises here. Are you truly free, or have you surrendered? Now consider what happens to our brains scientifically and philosophically, and what Stoicism has to teach us about this vice. Let us begin. Current medicine is quite clear in stating that masturbation is completely normal, not only in humans, but also observed in dogs and other mammals. However, this view of normal masturbation was not always so. In the past, people thought it immoral, especially for men, because unproductive seed production prevented reproduction. As for women, it was believed masturbation could distance them from men by offering pleasure found alone, without assistance. To this moral burden was added a physical burden, claiming that masturbation caused diseases, so it was deemed inadvisable to practice at all. Yet here we are, in the present. What do we now understand about masturbation, particularly for men suffering from insomnia? We know it induces sleep. The French Institute of Health and Medical Research concluded that the male brain deactivates sexual desire after orgasm. The cerebral cortex, the area responsible for conscious thought, goes to rest once climax is reached. This not only nullifies the desire to continue sexual relations, but also facilitates sleep. Hence, many men fall asleep after such activity. But ponder this. What if the very relief you seek is your hidden downfall? A force that dims your will, cloaked under labels of normality? Masturbation releases dopamine in your brain. This hormone is responsible for making us feel better, providing calm, relief from stress, and a sense of reward. This is caused by dopamine, and it is so pleasurable that some people become addicted. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders incorporated hypersexuality disorder. This classifies excessive masturbation under the category of obsessive-compulsive disorder, another vice that leads to mental and even familial destruction. In many cases, you won't be able to control yourself and you become a slave to your own urges, a victim of inner chaos. You begin to seek relationships with prostitutes, engage in sex with multiple people, and as we saw in a previous video, consume pornography excessively. These are the ways a dopamine-saturated brain tries to find pleasure. Pay attention. Addiction to masturbation comes from chemicals released in the brain. And as our brain adapts to these repeated releases, it begins to crave them, desperately searching for the codes that once generated the initial stimulation. Your brain will start asking for more and more dopamine just to achieve the same level of pleasure it had the first time. And so you are forced to keep looking again and again for ways to masturbate. This reaches an extreme point when your brain realizes that dopamine is being released in excess and begins to block its own receptors in a desperate attempt to stop you. The result? You perform the act but receive nothing, no reward, no pleasure, only frustration deeper than before. Excessive masturbation to satisfy that hunger for pleasure is exactly what a smoker does, who never stops, what someone does who eats chocolate until they vomit, or what an alcoholic repeats again and again. Now ask yourself, how quietly does such a habit alter your ambitions? This is the trap, illusions of relief that soon become a tightening chain. You must be wondering, what does Stoicism have to do with this? The Stoics Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Panasius, masters of self-control and wisdom, approach pleasure and lust from a perspective rarely seen. From the words of Epicurus to the intimate reflections of Seneca, they explored the deepest corners of human passion, leaving behind a legacy that still captivates minds today. For the Stoics, masturbation was not simply a quest for carnal satisfaction. but an opportunity to test the boundaries of the body and the mind. They saw it as a training ground for self-awareness and a path to true freedom. In their philosophy, mastering worldly passions and pleasures was a conquest that elevated the human spirit. Epicurus declared, "It is not nights of pleasure that define a good person, but the power of self-control." In this context, the ability to enjoy pleasure while understanding and containing it separates the awakened from the enslaved. Instead of being ruled by our desires, we must become their masters. Seneca reminds us that the Stoic reflection on masturbation is not about repression, but about deep understanding and self-mastery. It's about gaining the strength to direct our emotions toward a journey of conscious inner transformation. It lies not in fleeting satisfaction, but in the wisdom to observe, accept, and embrace our deepest instincts. From the Stoic perspective, every action carries weight, not just for us, but for the harmony of the universe itself. In rebellion, it begins the moment you take your mind back from these impulses. When we succumb to our most intense desires, as in the case of uncontrolled masturbation, we lose that harmonious connection with nature, a connection deeply valued by the Stoics. We become prisoners of our desires, drifting further and further away from true inner serenity. Compulsive masturbation can trigger an emotional whirlwind within us, where guilt, shame, and dissatisfaction become constant companions. The Stoics teach us to control our intense emotions through introspection and self-regulation. By consciously facing our emotions, we learn to manage them in a healthy and constructive way. However, the Stoics also encourage us to find inner peace within ourselves. True satisfaction lies in our self-mastery and in our ability to find joy in what is simple and virtuous. Allow me to share a personal and inspirational story. I know someone who used to struggle with compulsive masturbation, seeking momentary refuge and pleasure, but facing an emotional storm after each act. Immersing themselves in Stoic teachings and practicing self-control and self-regulation, this person went through a profound transformation. They learned to confront their desires and their emotions consciously, and in that process, they found true joy in self-control. They now live a life of inner peace and authenticity, free from the slavery of momentary desires. True satisfaction comes from living in accordance with our deepest principles and values. When we yield to fleeting desires, we lose sight of what we truly value in life. Compulsive masturbation can pull us away from our noblest purposes and veer us away from the true happiness found in virtue and inner peace. By practicing meditation and mindfulness, we can cultivate the mental serenity needed to resist temptations and face our emotions with strength and clarity. This compulsion becomes an obstacle to mental serenity, dragging us into regret and steering us away from the peaceful balance found in self-control. This is the final frontier to reclaim your essence from the clutches of a momentary high. My friend, what are you doing with your life? Do you really think that sitting at home watching those videos and taking pleasure with your hands will make you confident and successful? Do you really think that after wasting your time and energy on that nonsense, you can attract women? Or if you are a woman, do you think you can attract men? No, never. So reflect deeply, think wisely, and write in the comments. I am a powerful person. I have control over my mind. I choose to do what motivates me. I choose to do what improves me. Thanks for staying with me.